Moshi Moshi! My name is David, and this is my co-host,
Lewis.
And today, we bring you Blood on the Mic.
I like this new pep.
this new peppy form of David over here. Lucy, what are we covering today?
I hate this.
Yeah, we usually cover music over here, so you know.
Usually.
I
mean, like 100% of the time. But
100% of the time. We thought about other forms. Today we were talking about a new form of the show, Blood on the Cave.
Our philosophy
podcast.
If anybody's interested in us talking about philosophy, two people that know nothing about it really, tell us and we'll make episodes about philosophy. I like talking about shit I don't know.
What was the other one that we came up with?
Blood on the Cross.
Blood on the Cross. Yeah, that we came up with
that
last week. We talked about that. Yeah. The religious references are not going to go away for sure.
I mean, in podcasting, just people talking about shit they don't know about. The good podcast, at least.
But you gotta sound like you actually know. Yeah, it's there's truly no consequences. But
I mean, I think doing this made me realize, how little I know about music. I know enough about music, but like there are people that know so much more about music than I do.
Yeah, and
I'm like, is that just like doing research beforehand? Because I'm like trying to like remember shit, and I'm like, I don't know. I listened to it like once 5 years ago. I don't remember.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you listen to. I mean, the first time you listen is obviously the most important, but like, after you listen to stuff, with like the way Anthony Fantano listens to things.
Yeah,
he has to come up with a review of something, and he has to really know an album forwards and backwards.
I'm just wondering if does he do research on like influences of people and shit? Like,
at this point he just like knows it because of like how much he's talked about music already.
But like he'll know like super obscure old bands and stuff, and like basically just know everything about music in general. And I'm like, I might have listened to a band once or something, but like I don't remember it so intently that I can just be like, oh yeah, this sounds like this. I'm like, well yeah, I remember I listened to it once, but I don't really know.
Right, yeah. No, there's... Yeah. I mean, I bet you, the things that he talks about are things that he knows. So, like, I'm sure the things he doesn't know. But you don't know that because, nobody's ever asking him, oh, hey, Fantano, have you ever heard of, I don't know, this salsa band from Venezuela? And he's like, I don't know, man. I don't listen to any.
He'd probably be like, yeah, music. I like their early stuff.
Early stuff, yeah. El Gran Combo de Puerto Rico. Yeah, no, I prefer the Universidad de la Salsa. Yeah, that's.
And he comes here with a perfect Spanish accent, just.
It's a little weird because lately he's been reviewing stuff like Bad Bunny and Rosalia.
He's been reviewing a lot of Spanish stuff. That's true. Like, who's that Colombian lady?
Oh, Lido Pimienta?
Yeah, he reviewed her, and
that doesn't surprise. I mean, she's based in Canada, anyways, but
her music's in Spanish and stuff, and it's very
right. But it won the Polaris Award or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyways, let's drag it back. Speaking of people from Canada,
nice segue.
Well, yeah. What are we talking about today? Who are we talking about today?
Somebody that I notoriously have hated on. Mac Demarco.
There's a few people who we've name dropped and we keep alluding to that one day we'll have an episode. We're not that deep into our show, so it's not like you have to wait that much. But a few weeks ago we had Yacht Rock. We kept hinting that, and we've been hinting that Mac Demarco coming soon. So we have arrived.
we have arrived. So for those who don't know, Mac Demarco is an artist. Indie rock artist from like the early 2010s, and I mean he's still making music now, but he came up really in the early 2010s.
Yeah, his first releases were 2010s. Nobody really cares about his first release.
What's it called? Like rock and roll
nightclub or something
like that. I think it was an EP or something, or like a mixtape.
Rock and roll night.
Is that an Ariel Pink song?
He sings with a deep voice in that album.
Okay.
And Mac Demarco does.
That sounded like an Ariel Pink song, though.
Yeah, and I mean, I bet you Mac Demarco probably did have a lot of Ariel Pink influence.
Oh, definitely. But so a little bit about Mac Demarco that I didn't know. I did a little bit of research, and really just what his name is. Do you know what his real name is?
Is it Macaroni del Marco?
Del Marco. No, it's Werner Winfield MacBriar Smith the Fourth.
Wow, I would have also changed my name to Mac Demarco.
Well, what happened is Werner Winfield MacBriar Smith the Fourth was his father. Well, his father was the third, and his grandfather was the second. His
Yeah.
grandfather was the first.
Yeah.
So his parents actually split up when he was 4, and his mom changed his name to McBriar Samuel Lanyon DeMarco. DeMarco's his mom's last name.
Oh, I see.
And it's actually interesting that his dad was like the minister of transportation or something in England.
Yeah, no. If you're named the fourth, usually you come from a very important lineage. Probably
Yeah.
was this like the Quebecois royalty or something.
Something like that. I think they're from British Columbia or something, Canada. Okay. I don't know if that's like French Canada.
French Canada is Quebec, really.
Is that in British Columbia? I don't know.
No. I don't know. No, British Columbia is on the west coast by Seattle.
So if you look at my notes, if you look here at my notes, it says his name and then it says he is Canadian.
He is Canadian. Those are some important facts to fill in. Yeah, British Columbia apparently is where he was born, and oh, he was raised in Edmonton. And
I mean, all of Canada is just Canada to me. I don't know anything about any of it.
Right. Yeah.
So this is just means nothing. You could say
his background's not really too big of a thing. I don't know.
He's Canadian.
Yeah.
I think his mom was also musical. I think she like taught music or something like that. Or I know vaguely that his family, like he comes vaguely from a musical family. Like other people in his family did music.
Oh, his father refused to pay child support.
Yeah, his dad was like a deadbeat dad kind of thing. So I think he actually has an album about his dad.
He does. And in that album, he alludes. He has a song about his father, kind of like from the point of view of like his father having passed away. Because his dad was really sick, but then his dad got better. Yeah. And he didn't die. And
was the song like, "Oh, I'm so glad my dad's dying"?
No, it's not like that. But it's kind of like, like a posthumous, like like a.
Was it like
you're like looking back at your time with your dad?
Was it like eulogizing his dad?
Yeah, kind of almost, yeah. And then his dad wasn't died. And
we were talking about the ideal forms of language earlier.
Yeah,
just like his dad wasn't died.
his dad really wasn't died, and they met up, and it was kind of a little awkward, going like, yeah, well, about that song.
Do you know if like he still had contact with his dad?
Very, very little. I think lately he's been trying to like, maybe
bridge
reach out to his
or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, but apparently it's not the easiest thing or whatnot. I don't know. I don't try to get too deep into people's personal lives sometimes. Only as long as it's relevant enough to the music. And it wasn't that one song because it was eulogizing his dad.
So okay, so yeah, that's Mac DeMarco. He came up in the indie scene, and he really broke out with his album 2, which is his debut album. So I don't know why it's called 2.
No, it's his second album.
It's his debut like studio album.
Right.
I guess the thing before that must have been like a mixtape or something.
Rock and roll. And I mean, if you listen to his albums, a lot of them sound like they could be.
Yeah, I mean they're all recorded in his house. Like the difference between a studio album and a mixtape at that point is just like what.
Right. So, he just got a little bit more money for better equipment.
Yeah. So, but yeah, his second album was his breakout. Big songs like Viceroy, My Kind of Woman were on there.
Yeah. A very guitar-oriented sound.
His sound is
very
really
upbeat and optimistic too.
And his sound is really interesting. I mean, I don't like it very much, but so it's kind of like clean guitars, not really like distorted or anything. Kind of like 70s soft rock sounds.
Right. It's I think his music is very strictly yacht rock towards the beginning. Not yacht rock, but yacht rock. I'll give him yacht rock.
Yeah, and it has like woozy guitars. That's how I would describe it, at least. The guitars are really like, I don't know, it sounds like they're seasick or something a lot of the times.
Yeah. There's a bit of like a not too definite environment. Like as if you're like on a boat rocking,
Yeah.
or like if you're not quite sure if the light is yellow or if it's orange or if it's red or if it's purple. I don't know. Depending on the song, things will get a little bit more wonky.
Yeah. And I think that's really why I think. I mean, when I hear his music, I hear a lot of like Ariel Pink influence.
Yeah.
In the fact that like even though Ariel Pink I think took a lot more varied influence than Mac DeMarco did, where
Yeah.
Ariel Pink had a lot of different sources that he was grabbing, and one of them happened to be like soft rock, yacht rock kind of sound, where Mac DeMarco is just like, I'll just only take that.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think Mac DeMarco, yeah, definitely does have a more limited palette of things that he takes influence from. But it's not to say it's just like only one particular thing. I mean, there's one song we'll talk about later that he sampled the Japanese artist on.
Yeah, but the Japanese art, it's like it's not like it's far removed. Well, what do you hear in his music? Like,
what do I hear? Okay, so why do I like it? I don't know. Be more specific, I guess, with your ideal forms of expression.
we need to get that philosophy podcast up and running. Yeah, like, why do you like it when you hear it? Like, what are you hearing that you like?
So, for me, I would say at this point, like, love for Mac DeMarco's music. I think I'll take it that far.
It's a love now.
You're
gonna get married or something.
I wouldn't even say now. I mean, it's been for a while.
When's the first? When's the first time you heard him? Was it with
when Salad Days came out?
Oh, Salad Days.
Yeah, because I mean, I kind of kept up with music, but not too much. But then, like around 2013, I really started following music once again. So Mac DeMarco's first album had kind of like passed me over. I hadn't like, it didn't. I wasn't way aware of it. But in 2014, when Saturdays came out, that one was like, people were talking about it a lot, and I was in the conversation, and I was like, oh, I like this one, and it was ended up being my favorite album of that year. Still is, and
have you been keeping like a tally, like top 10?
I do.
For how long?
I do. So there's this website called besteveralbums.com. Usually we keep it very secret, but because you're listening to this podcast, I will extend that.
Oh, like you and your friends keep like a top 10?
It's not really me and my friends. It's like a website that's been around for a while. It's been around since like 2007, 2008. I don't know. I don't really know exactly when it started, but that's what it seems like it started. It is basically like this huge catalog of albums with songs, and you can rate, like, give like 5 stars.
Yeah.
Very similar to Rate Your Music, but the difference here is that you make these charts of your top X amount of albums. So you have your top 100 albums of all time, top 100 albums of the 70s.
I don't even think like I see people like Anthony Fantano and shit like that, and other music reviewers do like a top 100 albums of the year, top 100 albums of whatever. It's like, I don't even think I could do that. Like, I can't.
No, for the year,
I might be able to do it for the year, but like all time, I don't even like.
Actually, back when I was really keeping up with new music, I could do.
I don't know about 100.
I could do top 50 albums of the
year.
Yeah.
When I say 100, I don't mean like, I don't even think I'd listen to 100 new albums in a year. But
the most I would get to was 50 albums.
But even like top 10 of the year or whatever, right. I don't think I could choose between them. You know what I mean? Especially all time.
I mean, it is challenging to pick a top 10 of the year, and like at least be confident enough in your choice. Like, you definitely have to like give enough albums enough of a listen. And
yeah,
I think the last year that I could do that for was probably like 2017. It's probably the last year where I have a solid.
Have you been
10.
doing it every year though?
Yeah, I try to keep up with it. But especially the last couple of years, it's kind of fallen by the wayside. I don't listen to as many new albums as I used to. Like this year, I have I listen to a lot of like new random singles that come out. We do our new music segment, which will be coming out also.
And I've been considering like maybe just doing straight up music reviews of new shit coming out, but I don't know how interested in that you'd be.
Yeah, no, I think it's. I don't know. There's already a lot of like competition.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that do that.
But like this year, which albums have I listened to? I listened to Fiona Apple's album.
Yeah, Charlie
Um,
XCX came out with a new album.
But I haven't even listened to that one. There's always a lot of albums that I would be willing to listen to. I just
AG Cook just came out with another thing. Like
another
this
thing.
Week. Yeah.
Really?
Because AG Cook just came out with like a 7.
Yeah, 7.
Hour, yeah, 7. I think this week he just came out with another one.
Wow. I guess
He's really busy.
I don't know.
Why are we talking about this? So yeah, you said this was Solid Days was your number 1 album of
2014.
Yeah.
And which edged out the top one for that most people the popular choice is War on Drugs. Most people
Another boring band. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. But Mac Demarco is my number 1 for that year. And I think what got me about Mac Demarco is that I think unlike a lot of other indie music at the time, especially, he wasn't very obscure about what his songs were about. Some of the songs that he writes are actually very like straightforward.
Yeah.
Especially the more romantic oriented songs that he writes. And also the fact that he's got a very very laid back and guitar oriented sound.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what really like grabbed me from the start. I was like, oh, this guy's catchy, and he's very upfront about what he's writing about, and he's got these sick guitar fills, and
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, Mac DeMarco's a person that I always wanted to like. Because, like, I would... What are you doing?
Ran into water.
Do you want more water?
I'll get more water later.
Okay. Mac DeMarco's somebody I always wanted to like. Like, I think the first time I heard it was probably in 2012 when, like, 2 came out. Because I know... Because the songs like My Kind of Woman and Vice were, like... big on the internet, basically. Like, people were talking about them a lot. And I like those songs a lot. But every time I tried to listen to the album, I'm like, it just wasn't as good as those songs, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I really like 2. And I've talked to some other people that I know. And there's some people who are like, 2 was his best. Everything after that has just been worse and worse. Which I can see that, like, what angle people are coming from that. But, like, 2 is it's a very simple album, I would say. It's,
yeah.
He's got one sound that he kind of goes for.
As much as Mac DeMarco, like, you know, he definitely started out with one sound, and 2 is basically just one sound over like 10 songs, however much it is.
Yeah, like
but he has like progressed his sound through his career. Like, he has changed it up a bit. Like, you know, it's an evolution.
Right.
It's not like he's having a completely different sound in every album, but there's a progression.
Yeah, no, I mean, like he has a Mac sound that he very solidly has, but yeah, every album is a little different.
Mm-hmm.
Like the last album he did, Here Comes the Cowboy, everything's like at half the speed that it normally is.
Even more boring than normal?
Yeah, well, if anything, it sounds more like depressing, I would say. Kind of like...
I like it when he's depressing. I should give it a listen then.
Yeah, it's to me it like reminds me of like a Sunday where you're at home and like you don't even bother to turn on the lights and you're just eating tuna straight out of the can.
And you're just like, I could just kill myself right now and nobody would care.
Right. That's what Here Comes the Cowboy kind of reminds me of. And there's a few weird parts in that album, but I think it goes in keeping with the vibe as well. It's like when you turn on the TV and like I don't know, like Ren and Stimpy, is that the...
That's a cartoon.
Yeah, like there's parts of the album where it sounds like he turns on the TV and like Ren and Stimpy comes on, and that's not literally what happens, but like that's the vibe that I get.
Okay.
That he even though it sounds like it's very excitable, if you really like listen to like the subtext in it, you're like, oh wait, no, he's actually like really depressed and can't get off the couch. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we're talking about this because, you know, you love Mac DeMarco.
Yeah,
I don't.
Yeah.
And I never gave him... I mean, I gave him a chance early on. I mean, I gave 2 a chance, really. And then after 2, I listened to Salad Days probably like once when it came out. And then after that, I stopped caring. Because I'm like, I'm not going to like Mac DeMarco.
You didn't like him then? You won't like him now.
But, you know, I want to give him another shot. And that's what this is. So...
You've also said such statements in the past, such as Mac DeMarco killed indie music.
Oh, he did. Yeah. So let's get into that. Mac DeMarco spawned one of the worst periods in indie music, I think, from like
what the mid 2010s.
Yeah, Where everything just sound. Actually, you know what? Now that because I never even listened to Ariel Pink before, like a few months ago. Ariel Pink really started it, but Mac DeMarco, popularized it.
Yeah, I don't really know exactly where things went. I can tell you this. Well, one, I don't exactly know what you mean. Like, what exactly do you mean by like the worst? Like, what are
Just
the
the
qualities
most
that
boring.
you like? The most boring, okay.
Where it's everything's drenched in reverb.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of distortion going on.
Okay, so I agree with you that was one of the worst iterations of indie music.
But you like it though.
I do like a lot of stuff, but like by the end of the decade, so I'm on the radio. I think I say this multiple times, but like
what's the station?
It's WMBR 88.1 FM,
Boston, Cambridge,
Boston,
Massachusetts. Yeah. If you live in Boston, give it a listen. If not, move over here and listen to it.
Yeah, we have a lot of variety in our station, but a lot of like indie rock is what we play, and I think most college rock stations do that too. But whenever I did the indie rock show, in the recent years I've been playing mostly like songs that don't have reverb, where it's just like clear vocals, or like the sound is very much like, yes, that's a guitar. It's not processed in any ridiculous way. It doesn't sound like the woman singing is like 3 doors down the hall.
Yeah, I think
or anything like that.
In recent years, the sound of indie rock has been getting more aggressive, more less laid back.
Yeah.
More experimental.
It's more in your face.
Yeah.
Yeah. More. There's a lot more quirkiness going. Like, yeah, it's maybe not quirky. Quirky is a weird word to say, but like, yeah, it's getting more colorful, I would say.
Yeah.
Instead of like these like hazy colors, if we're using color theory here. But and like, so the thing is that I want to put it on Mac DeMarco. Mac DeMarco. So from my perspective, there was already this existence of reverb, and you can go far back enough. The late 2000s did not have that much reverb overall. You had songs like "That's Not My Name," "That's Not My Name." There's like literally no reverb in that song, and a lot of other songs that were like that. Even like LCD Sound System, who we're gonna cover soon enough,
because it's a band I love and that you don't.
And like especially the early LCD Sound System did not have any reverb or very little reverb. But then you get into bands like Animal Collective, and Animal Collective like drenches everything in reverb.
Yeah, but they do it too, and I don't really like Animal Collective, but they use it to an experimental degree where like they do it so much that like they're trying something different.
Right, but I think more like I think the side of Animal Collective that like influenced this most was the Panda Bear stuff. Because Panda Bear was like, if you take Brian Wilson and yeah, just make him even more chilled out and like a slacker kind of like vibe to it. But yeah, they just led to other bands like Deer Hunter. You listen to Deer Hunter?
They had one album that I liked. I forget which one it was. Microcastles, I think.
Microcastles is one album. I'm more familiar with their other album. It was like Halcyon and I don't remember that.
It was like Halcyon Digest or something.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah. And then of course, the band that kind of like perfected the reverb sound in a more like dream pop, from a more dream pop perspective, was Beach House, which became like really popular in 2010.
Yeah. Beach House is also another band that like I wanted
that
to
I love.
Do you love?
I do love Beach
Of course
House.
you do. Beach House is a band that I wanted to love, but I'm like, I can't.
I love Beach House even more than Mac DeMarco. There are. I think they were the hot take of the day.
Okay, let's do it. Hot take.
I think Beach House was the best band of the 2010s.
We need to do a video on that. That would be interesting. Oh shit, we need to do a best band of like. We should both pick one and then like argue about it.
The best band of what?
2010. Sure.
Oh yeah, we could
actually.
Do that,
2010's over. So yeah, we could do that.
Yeah, no, we're 2020 now. So we have a full perspective of music that came out, and especially with that last album that they dropped, that was like, this like reaffirms it. Kind of like how like best rapper 2010s, Kendrick Lamar.
Obviously,
Yeah,
yeah.
of course. Yeah, I mean, I think most people wouldn't even like question that, but I don't know. You'll get that
Best
one
rapper
guy.
in 2000s.
Oh, rapper? I don't know. The most important like hip hop person was Kanye West.
Yeah.
But best rapper of the 2000s.
You know, when people do like best rappers, it's always complicated because like if you want to say just best rapper as in like best technical ability, that's a different conversation than like best music overall that a rapper makes.
I would say maybe like 2000s MF Doom.
That was my choice.
Okay,
Okay,
yeah, like I mean, because like you know the thing is that like some people are split between decades also, so I'm just like I can't.
Well, MF Doom's all his best shit is 2000s.
Right,
and,
right.
I mean, really just 2004. He released 3 albums in 2004. Like his
Right,
3
right.
best
He
albums,
just had a
so-
very like solid like year and a half or something going on there.
He had an insane work ethic from then.
But bringing it back in, yeah, no, I would say that like this whole like reverb-laden sound, I think it was mostly a lot of different bands going on. And by the time that Mac Demarco came out, I think it was just already the thing.
Yeah,
And-
it was just the early 2010s. It was just like it was a chilled out vibe.
Right.
People were trying to do this chilled out thing.
Yeah, like the band Chill Out, but like
Yeah.
but
Chill wave was a thing for a while.
Chill wave was a thing. Well, just like vaporwave in general became
Yeah,
a thing.
vaporwave. When did vaporwave become a thing? When
Like
did
late 2000s, early 2010s. You know, that's
Yeah.
I think by 2011 we already had
When was that one?
the 420 one, the
Macintosh.
yeah, Macintosh Plus. Yeah.
When did that come out?
2011, I think, was when Floral Shop came out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, by 2011, it was already. I mean, yeah, it was already a thing when like
Yeah, that whole.
that is the watershed moment. Floral Shop coming out.
Well, yeah, obviously. I mean, yeah, that album is important for the internet.
Yeah, for the internet, yeah, it is. Yeah, such a meme. But yeah, Mac DeMarco. I don't know, but he wasn't like the first one. I think some of the most boring music I think came out right before Mac DeMarco came around. People like Real Estate.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're super boring. There's other people too that other people love. Like, what are those people called? Like DuckTales? I don't know. Are they related to Real Estate? I don't know.
See, this is the thing. Like, I've heard of these bands, but like these are bands that I might have heard like once or twice and then never heard again because like I wasn't even into. Like, I don't even like the best people in the genre of like chilled out music, like Mac DeMarco or Beach House or whatever. Like, so why would I hear these like second tier chill bands? Like, fuck them.
I mean, they're the ones that like really gave it. Those are the ones that like even I myself will go like, yeah, no, like this is not worth it. And there's bands that like always.
Oh yeah.
They had one super chill out like a reverb-laden album in 2010s. That's the one they broke out with. And then later on in the decade, they had one where like they stripped back some of that reverb-laden. And like I think it's so much better. But there's other people who are like, oh no, they
like
lost
the
a lot
boring
of
stuff.
like their.
They
a lot
got
of their-
interesting. How dare you?
Yeah, it doesn't. It no longer sounds like.
It no longer helps me go to sleep at night.
Yeah, I don't know. For some reason, I think of like 500 Days of Summer when like that song comes on. Like, I don't even know. I don't even remember what year that movie came out, but I just feel like everybody who loved that movie also loved this reverb-laden indie sound.
I like that movie, but I didn't like the sound. Wasn't that a Smiths heavy soundtrack? No, I think they mentioned the Smiths in the movie.
They had they had the Smiths, A Light Never Goes Out.
Mm-hmm.
The one of the best songs of all time, but you know.
I do love that song.
But
yeah, this sound that
yeah.
was happening in the 2010s, I hated it. I'm so glad that that's like dying or is dead at this point. There's a lot of interesting indie and alternative rock bands.
I think we've mostly moved past it. I think at this point, I don't even like I don't always have my finger on the pulse of who's popular right now.
I don't know who's popular. I mean, I know,
but
who
I
like,
can't think of like. I mean, some of the bands that are popular now. Car Seat Headrest.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I listened to them when they try to be reverby, like Teens of Style, I think is the album that is reverby. And I remember specifically thinking like, I don't like this. It's not doing it for me. Then Teens of Denial.
Yeah, Teens of Denial.
That came out the year afterwards. Much more stripped back sound. in terms of like modulation and reverb and all that
Yeah.
stuff. And it was great. And I was like, I don't know how I didn't like this band before. I went back and listened to the other one, and I'm like, yeah, no, that wasn't their sound. Like this right here, like they made the right adjustments. And I think most of those bands in the early 2010s, mid 2010s, actually even Mac DeMarco included, I think if they strip back some of that reverb, I think it could have been good for them. Some of the bands would have probably sounded even better, but some of the bands would have probably sounded terrible because they probably have like terrible vocals.
Yeah.
And without those special effects. But yeah. Was it getting at it? Okay, what's your next point of like why you think Mac DeMarco is terrible?
Why you sound so sad about it?
Well, I think that point is probably like, I don't think it's fair in the sense that like Mac DeMarco didn't ruin indie music.
I mean, that's my hot take. I don't know if I like 100% believe it.
I mean, I think that like, at least from like what you define as ruining indie music, I think that like
Mac DeMarco was like the figurehead of that movement for a while.
I think it was one of the people who thrived off of that.
And he became hugely popular.
Right, he did. There's no denying that. There's people nowadays who I talk to, and they say that like, yeah, Mac DeMarco was like one of their most influential people in their taste early on. And I mean, to me, I mean, yeah, influential. Maybe, I mean, I'm a little older than some of these other people, so I wouldn't say that was like what I was like introduced to or something. But like, I was into the sound. I think Mac DeMarco, if anything, made that period better, because they already had complaints going into Mac DeMarco that like indie music was losing a lot of popularity. Like, I feel like indie music kind of peaked around late 2000s. By 2010, you had like these like big bands.
Peaked as far as like mainstream popularity, you mean?
Popularity, but also like just like also quality of music that would come out. Like, people would be excited when like when somebody like Arcade Fire would drop an album. It was like a big event. And in the mid 2010s, I feel like people just didn't care anymore that much, because like,
well, there's also an explosion of like, I mean, rap has been a thing, for years and years, but like the explosion of popularity in rap, both in the mainstream and in the underground.
I don't think they're exclusive, because like, I don't think they're like necessarily tied together, because like they could be like in the mid 90s, you had like some fantastic alternative rock albums coming out, and you had some fantastic like hip hop records.
Well, I think it just, for me at least, it was that in the 2010s, early 2010s, there was this influx of like boring indie rock.
There was.
But also in the rap side, there was an influx of very interesting rappers,
Yeah.
So like Kendrick Lamar, the whole TDE, Black Hippie, Schoolboy Q, Absol, Kendrick Lamar, that all happened early 2010s. A$AP Rocky, but the whole East Coast like revival thing.
Yeah. I mean, I felt like what happened was that indie music tried to become so accessible that it just became kind of neutered, and like it like grade itself into something that had like really no selling value. I mean, like, you wouldn't complain about indie music. Was popular in the sense that like you could walk down the mall, indie music would be playing in the background, and you wouldn't care.
Yeah, indie music was in just a shit ton of commercials and stuff.
Right.
Every indie movie.
But it was just a lot of like songs that weren't that memorable. Mm-hmm. It just had like this ethos of like Brooklyn, and but like not even in like the Bushwick kind of way, but like the like, oh, let's go to a coffee shop and grab some donuts at like this vegan place down the street,
And whereas like they were doing that, underground rap music and shit was just getting more experimental and more interesting, So that's where I was at the time. Like, I really stopped listening to a lot of indie rock then, and like just listened to more rap, because that rap was just more interesting at the time to me.
Yeah. But like, I'm interested. I'm like curious as to why you chose Mac DeMarco as like the person to, because like with us, like when we were listening to Mac DeMarco, to us he was kind of like the indie reaction to somebody like Tyler the Creator or something like that. And not in the sense that like he was necessarily like outrageous, but in the sense that like, you know, like Tyler the Creator is this guy who is still very childish. He likes to skateboard and you know, eat donuts
And
and
that's the
stuff
thing
like that.
about Mac DeMarco that I do like is that, I mean, I don't hate all his music, but I do like his personality. Like I'd watch him in interviews and stuff, and see him just like on the internet and videos and shit. And like
Right.
I actually like his personality. I think he seems like a cool guy, and he's like a funny guy, whatever.
There's this one
But-
story. You haven't heard the story before because he said this on my friend's interview, but you know she's not very well known, so you know.
Oh, did she interview Mac DeMarco?
She interviewed Mac DeMarco.
That's cool.
She interviewed a lot of bands. She had a thing called.
Was this like early on?
Yeah, she had a show in the mid 2010s called Eater's Digest, where she talked about food to people, to musicians, and nobody else does that. So like, she got some stories that other people miss out on. There was this one time that Mac DeMarco went to China, and he had a Chipotle in Beijing, and he said that he gave him instant diarrhea, and he had to use a restroom in the middle of Tiananmen Square, but there was no toilet paper, and he ended up getting like stomach poison, like stomach flu from it, because like
From a Chipotle?
because I think he ended up using like a used piece of paper that was just lying around to wipe
You know, it's
it out.
funny. Like, if you go to a foreign country that you feel like uncomfortable with the food and shit, you'd think you'd be good with the chains. Like, that's the one place that those are the places that you could be like, okay, I can eat this shit because I know it, and then it just destroys you.
Right. It came up because she asked him, like, what did you eat on tour? And he said, not Chipotle. And she was like, why not Chipotle? And he was basically, went on this, the Tiananmen diarrhea story what came out of that. But yeah, this is Mac DeMarco. He kind of dresses like this shirt in the sense that, you know,
It's the slacker vibe thing.
slacker
It's the,
vibe, yeah.
You know, chill, like, I don't care about what I look like. And
Yeah,
I'm just chill, bro.
He gives us this impression that he's not on top of his life, that, you know, he likes recreational activities.
Well, is that the vibe that you get from Tyler the Creator?
Because
Because especially
not so much recreation, like not that it was just that, like, just the idea of like somebody who's immature and an outsider, almost like it's I can see
I wouldn't say Mac
the two of them
DeMarco's
hanging out. That was like,
Yeah, but I wouldn't see Mac DeMarco as an outsider in, like, at least indie rock.
I mean, he seemed like that at the time, because I think indie rock took itself a little bit more seriously back then, especially at the time because of all this newfound popularity. Everybody wanted to be like everybody was taking like black and white photographs.
Yeah.
And you know, they were all trying to like assume, indie rock was trying to assume this helm of like rock and roll or something like that. You know, like maybe not in the sound, but like, you know, the status of like, you know, we're the next U2 or whatever other crap. You know, so people were generally taking themselves a little bit more seriously. But Mac DeMarco was literally like, this is just the music that I made in my bedroom. And like that at least to me, that's what it like appeared to be. He
And that's it. Like, I like his ethos. I like his personality. I just don't like his music. So, you know, I don't listen to it. But him as a person, he seems like a cool guy.
Yeah, yeah.
But let's get into this album. So we listened to Salad Days because, you know, that's to you that's his best album.
To me, yeah.
And it's debatable.
Some people will say different things. But Salad Days came out in 2014. If you're wondering what Salad Days is a Shakespearean word. It was first appeared in Antony and Cleopatra. Did you know that? Oh, yeah.
I read that in college, I think.
Wow. And
Antony.
And it's supposed to represent a youthful time that goes along with the inexperience that he had at the time, the enthusiasm, idealism, in a sense, but also your indiscretion.
You know, you know what's a term that I just learned not too long ago?
What?
Indian summer. Have you heard this?
No, I've seen there's like some songs called Indian Summer.
Yeah, I've heard the term Indian summer before, but I never knew what it meant. But Alex told me what it meant.
I know what Indian Giver is.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. So an Indian summer is when like summer ends and then it starts to get cold in the fall, but then it gets hot again for like another week.
Yeah,
that's an Indian summer.
Oh,
what is this racist shit Americans have of Indians?
I don't know. Is this an Indian summer right now?
This is an Indian summer. That's why, like, I was talking to Alex like the other day, and she's like, "Oh, we're in an Indian summer." And I'm like, what is this racist shit with Indians where it's just like an Indian giver or something, like they give you something to take it back of like, oh, you're an Indian giver. And then an Indian summer, it's like it gets cold, but then they take the cold back again and it ggets hot again. Like, do they think that like that Indians like gave us the land and then tried to take it back or something? Like,
I don't know. There was some. I think there were just differences in
opinion. They didn't all want to die.
There were some cultural differences for sure, though.
Well, yeah.
In terms of like what property meant and like the idea of property itself and whatnot.
Don't defend these fucking colonials that came and murdered 99% of the Indians and then put them on reservations.
No, the disease killed like 50% of them.
Are you really gonna defend them?
And look, I have both. I have blood of both the natives of the Americas and the colonial.
I'm like
people.
Fucking. How is this possible? I'm like whiter than you, and I'm like, well, this is the white guilt, I guess, right?
Oh yeah, you're suffering from white guilt.
Yeah, and you're.
I'm comfortable enough in my brownness to be like, yeah, the Europeans, like.
They didn't agree with us, so
I can understand the sentiment. You want land for your own family, slaughter the other ones that are there.
You agree with that?
I do the same thing.
Really? I'd like to see you slaughter a family because you want their land.
Yeah, like, oh, I like that plot of land. Murder your family. That's how real estate works. You go to the bank, you get a loan, murder the family.
That's how your family has gotten the houses before?
Well, somebody did die in my garage.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's how you got it cheap.
Yeah. It is. It's, yes. All right. So salad days, though. Something I didn't talk about before. Mac Demarco, to me, I know this is also a bit of a hot take. I don't know. I know you probably won't like it comparison. But to me, he's always struck me. He's always reminded me of mid 70s or like just 70s John Lennon.
I can see that.
Yeah. So like to me, when I first
more boring.
That's one of the things that like he like got me about him. Is like, oh, he has songs that are introspective. He also writes about love sometimes, and also he has this vibe where he's like, at least especially in his earlier albums, Salad Days particularly, where he's depressed but optimistic at the same time. I don't know. I mean, nowadays he's more like depressed and like, whatever. He just.
Well, I could see the John Lennon comparison if you're not talking about his earliest albums, the Plastic Ono Band and Imagine, because those are like super raw and like stripped back, which was like his intention at the time because coming out of the Beatles, that was very studio heavy and that shit.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about like a little bit slightly past that,
his like mid 70s. Stuff or whatever.
Right. He's writing songs like Beautiful Boy and
where it's more like cleaner and a little more polished than like his early super raw.
Right. He also has like a bit of reverb. He plays around with reverb sometimes in the mid-70s.
So yeah, I could definitely see that John Lennon comparison.
Yeah. And also like something about his voice and like the fact that he's just like a lot more guitar oriented also kind of like threw me back into like that 70s vibe. But yeah, John Lennon in particular. More than anybody else. Even though, like, I know Mac DeMarco has a lot of different sources. I know he listens to James Taylor, which I know you don't listen to James Taylor.
No.
He's always said that he loved to hang out with Michael McDonald and all of that.
You know what? I'd like to hang out with him too.
What a fool. But yeah, over here I wrote down, he gave us music that normal folks could relate to. It's simple. You can sing along to it. It's quirky. It's catchy. It is not corporate either. So it has like a little bit of like a very homegrown kind of thing about it. But anyways, to get back to Salad Days. That's what Salad Days is about. Salad Days has 11 songs. And unlike his first album, which is just guitar oriented, this album has a lot more keyboards. And
I would argue with a lot more, but there are more.
Yeah, I mean it's like a slow transition into more
there's
keyboards.
There's two songs on the album that are like synth only, like synth leads. Yeah. And those,
Are those your favorites?
Those are my favorite ones.
Well, Chamber of Reflection.
Chamber of Reflection is probably my favorite Mac Demarco song ever. Uh-huh. One of them, at least. And then Passing Out Pieces, which is the other like synth heavy track.
Yeah.
Is I also love that song. Those are my two favorite songs on the album.
Yeah, Passing Out Pieces, I think, is like the biggest achievement I think in this album. It does have a certain sense of bombasticness to it.
Mm-hmm.
Dun dun. Bum, bum, bum. It's like a horns playing or something.
Yeah, it has a really like. I thought it was that. I think I probably actually thought it was a horn the first time I heard it, but it's a synthesizer that sounds a lot like a horn.
Yeah. But it's also just lyrically, that one's probably one of the more. It's not as simple and, it's a little deeper than his like earlier songs. So I think even lyrically, that's one of his more.
Yeah, and lyrically, I mean, I didn't dig too deep into the lyrics, but I actually read that he on purpose made this album deeper. Basically, like he wanted all the songs to like mean something, because apparently on 2, like a lot of them just didn't mean anything.
A lot of them were just fun songs. His lyricism got better and better. I think up to like the Dog one. I forgot what the name of the Dog album is, but that song Passing Out the Pieces. He's talking about passing out the pieces of me.
Yeah.
So it's almost like he's giving a lot of himself away.
That's like his commentary on fame, basically.
Yeah, it's like, don't you know nothing comes free. I think he feels like he's paying the price for it himself.
Mm-hmm.
And he has these few lines that are, I don't know exactly if nihilistic is the way to say it. Maybe defeatist, I don't know. But saying stuff like watching my life passing in front of my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Hell of a story.
It's funny how every time, it's almost without fail, an artist will break out, get famous, and then on his next album he'll be like, I hate being famous. He'll always have at least one song about like how fame is terrible and he hates it and he wants to be normal again.
Yeah, no, I mean that'll happen. Mac DeMarco, later he had a song, one of my favorites for him lyrically, maybe not song wise, but talking about how he did it. He achieved his dream.
Mm-hmm.
And now he got to a moment where it's like, okay, what now? And then his conclusion is that it's time to like create new dreams. Is what he was getting at there. And I was like, oh, I feel that.
Because you achieved all your dreams, right?
I will say I achieved a very big dream.
Actually, yeah, you know what? You did. I'm making fun of you, but you did actually. So
it might not seem like it now, but it's because I already achieved it. Like now I'm in the dreaming phase. I'm like trying to create new goals for my life, but
that's where the podcast comes in,
right? And like, oh yeah, I guess. There's, and I think it's mostly like that vibe that I associate with him a lot. Like the first song, Salad Days, I think is one of my favorite songs in this album. Mm-hmm. As I'm getting older, chip up on my shoulder, going through life, you get older and die. And he's talking about how like somebody is like, well, in this album there's people who like care about him and like they're like asking him are things okay, and over here he's saying that like you're acting like my life's already over.
Yeah.
And in Goodbye Weekend, he talks about things like, people who were worrying about him. And then he's just saying like, I'm living my own life. You don't need to be like coming over here and like asking me about me. Sometimes it's rough, but generally speaking, I'm fine is kind of like what his perspective on his own life is. But these are some of the more introspective songs that he has on here. Because I mean, at least lyrically, some of the other songs are not really even that like they're nice, but like they're not worth talking about. Like "Let Her Go," "Let My Baby Stay," "Treat Her Better." Like
Basically, just about girls and
yeah, they're about girls, and I mean, I agree with his sentiment. Uh,
but
you
they're
know,
not as interesting lyrically.
like you should treat her better. Um, if having her around is something you enjoy, I think that's what he gets at.
It's
But
funny how I mean you did say it was your favorite album of 2014, so I'm not surprised that you know it like front and back.
yeah,
But
no, I've listened to this one a lot.
but it's funny that you say "Salad Days" was like your favorite song on the album.
It's one of my favorites. I mean, I like passing other pieces too, but like,
Because "Salad Days" is the other. So this is the thing that about this album and about Mac DeMarco in general, at least the Mac DeMarco I've listened to, is that he kind of it's just a lot of his songs just sound the same. And in this album, it kind of like exists in two modes most of the time, where it's like an upbeat, woozy guitar thing, and then like a more down tempo version of the same thing.
Yeah.
So like "Salad Days" is more of the up tempo one, and then like the next song "Blue Boy" is more of the down tempo one, and it kind of just keeps switching back and forth.
Right.
And I'm like, they're just the same shit over and over again. That's why. And then like that's why I like passing out the pieces.
Yeah.
It's the thing about that song is like it sounds like a Mac DeMarco song, but just with synthesizers. But that's different enough to make me interested and make me like it. And then "Chamber of Reflections" is a whole different vibe.
Yeah,
that I really like.
Yeah, so it's like a whole totally different thing going on.
So, but that's great. And the thing I don't, the reason why I can't listen to this album is that like he's basically doing the same shit over and over again. And like I just wish there was more variety on the album.
I get you.
And like
I can understand that. I mean, I think part of a big reason why I like it is because like I dig the sound so much. Like this guitar sound, I think I really go for. Nowadays, I'm less particular about the guitar, you know. But back then, the guitar was like really my go-to instrument. So I was glad that somebody.
Well,
was
that's
using
another
the
thing
guitar.
is that this guitar sound is not one that I like
It's not-
necessarily. Like it's I mean, if you do something interesting with it, I'm fine with it. Like it's not something that I instantly hate. Like a lot of like 80s synthesizer sounds, like those instantly repel me. This guitar sound doesn't repel me. It just doesn't really draw me in. Like the kind of guitar sounds I like more like you know distorted, heavy.
Yeah.
Like those are the things that draw me in instantly, and I'm like, okay, I'm interested. You know, I like noise stuff. I like noisy things. I like aggressive things instinctually. You know, like I can like more calm stuff, but you know, it's not the first thing I go to.
No, I like a clean guitar sound with licks and like you know. I think we've talked about it before. Like Brian May, I think, is a fantastic guitarist. I think my
he's
favorite
super heavy
is
too.
Yeah. I think I think like one of my favorite is David Gilmour. I like his guitar style.
Mm-hmm.
And like even people like Johnny Marr, the way that they approach the guitar, with a more jangle.
Yeah, but the thing with all those people, I think they were more interesting songwriters than Mac DeMarco. Like he writes one song, two songs over and over again, and he just keeps writing those songs, and like to varying quality. So like the thing with Mac DeMarco to me is like it seems like each of his albums will have like 2 or 3 highlights, and then the rest are just like worse versions of the same things. Like that's why I didn't like 2 is that I really like Viceroy and My Kind of Woman. Like I really actually like those songs a lot, but then the other songs on the album were kind of like just
the same thing,
the same shit, but just worse.
Okay, I get that. I understand the point you're making here. I think it's a fair shot to make at him. And I think it's also why like whenever people ask me about Mac DeMarco, I'm like, oh, I love him. But I don't really like push him onto other people in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Like. Because, like, I understand a lot of people are just not, like, if you're not into him, you're just not into him.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, if you love that sound, I would understand why you like Mac DeMarco, because, like, you know, he pushes that sound, and he does it good enough that if you're into it, that he has a lot of good songs for you. Right. None of these songs are terrible. It's just the same shit, and I'm not into it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah. I guess, like, Mac DeMarco, for a little while there, I thought he was going for almost like a parrot head kind of thing going on. Like I thought he was gonna like, you know, have like craft this or like maybe to be nicer, maybe like a Deadheads thing going.
And it's funny to me because like early on, I thought he was kind of being ironic with a lot of the shit that he said he liked and stuff, and like his whole persona kind of seems ironic.
Yeah.
But then like on the surface, but then when you dig deeper, it's like no, he actually likes this shit.
I think a lot of it was like ironic, presented at least ironically at first, and I think with time, I think he just kind of just went like, yeah, no, like actually this is like what I dig or whatever. But not to say that that's the only thing he digs. Like he's Mac Demarco's a big advocate for people like The Garden. Have you listened to The Garden?
I listened to them a little bit and they were interesting.
Yeah, like they're not laid back yacht rock or anything like that. They if anything they kind of awaken you when you listen to them. You kind of go like, oh, what is going on here? Kind of. You know.
And that's another thing that's interesting. That would be a different topic. Is like, what is indie and alternative rock music anymore? Because a lot of shit that's coming out could be like what could be the like what's The Garden? Like what kind of music is that?
The Garden.
Like what would you define that as?
Well,
because it has like elements of alternative rock or whatever, and like guitars and things in it. But
it does sound like a lot of like alternative rock, but then it also has influences of like hip hop in a sense.
But the thing is, like it's electronic and glitchy, and
sometimes there's a lot of screamo in there as well. So yeah, it is a weird mix. It's definitely one of the. I mean, if that kind of sound was influential enough moving forward, then maybe there's a better name for it than indie rock. Then like that just hasn't.
I think that's alternative rock. I don't know, because I think rock music is too tied to like the band, where it's like you can make rock music without a band. You can make rock music on a laptop.
Yeah.
Like, cause like rap music, that they're just like all the beats are just made by one person on a computer for the most part, and then a rapper raps on it. Like, why can't they do that with rock music? Like, I think people would have a hard time considering that rock music if somebody did that.
Consider what, like The Garden, or
yeah,
possibly. I don't know exactly like where they land as of now. I think
or like the emphasis on like using real instruments or something and not just like electronic things,
right?
Because like somebody like Kevin Parker from Tame Impala, like Tame Impala is just one person,
right?
But he's using real instruments and shit.
Yeah, and like his music is also indie, but like at the same time, lately it's been more R&B influenced, and
I don't know. I just think that's because a lot of like electronic shit that's coming out, like electronic for lack of a better word, but like that, like The Garden, this band Black Dresses, people like that, just that are like I would consider rock music, but I don't know if people do consider that rock music.
I think it is, if it's in the tradition of rock music, I think it is rock music. That makes some sort of sense.
Yeah.
The definition of rock music, I think, is less based on the makeup of it anymore. Before it used to be really based on like it has to have guitars and drums and bass. If it's a band, that's even better. But it's definitely like changed over the years. We started putting in keyboards into rock music. So some rock bands don't even play guitar anymore. Like, is it still rock music? And then you're like, well, they kind of just follows the tradition of rock music. And, we use terms like indie rock to define it, or like indie music. Indie-tronica is a term that people like push around. And I don't know, it really, I wouldn't think about it too much. I think it's more of like case by case in some ways. Whatever your gut goes by. As long as your definition of rock music is not like made by white people or something like that, then
I had to change my definition.
People who for some reason don't think that Block Party is not a rock band or something like that. Or TV on the radio.
I don't understand how like black people invented rock music. So, like you'd have to work really hard to think white people are the only people that can make rock music.
Right. Gotta ignore people like Jimi Hendrix. Slight inconvenience there.
Slightly.
But yeah, but I mean, you hated Mac DeMarco coming into this. How do you feel about Mac DeMarco now coming out? Because for me, my view of him has not changed. I know this album well through. The only thing that I might say is that this album kind of put me like I was feeling a little bit more peppy going into this album, and then this album kind of brought me down a notch. So you know, it's not. I realized like how much of like a downer I would say this album actually is at the end of the day.
You know, hate's a strong word, and I mean, I don't think I've ever really hated Mac DeMarco. I just say that because I think it's funny. But yeah, I mean, I have basically the same impression that I always had about what.
I'm just listening for your takes on this.
I told you, it's just I think his music is boring I mean, he has some great songs, but I think for the most part his music's kind of boring. Another song I want to mention is the last song on the album, Johnny's Odyssey.
Yeah.
That I actually like that. It's an instrumental.
Yeah,
I like the instrumental.
It's a nice outro.
And it's more interesting than a lot of the other music on there. I wish it was like an actual song.
I think like you might enjoy some of the things that he came out with after this album.
Yeah, I've heard songs here and there after this like that I've actually liked.
I mean, he definitely still has a lot of, you know, your run of the mill songs that, you know, most people would consider boring. But like that's what I know that, and I know that knowing that like whenever I'm on the radio and I play Mac DeMarco, I make sure that like I try to like play what I think is the most interesting of his music. Like he has this one song that's like 7 minutes long.
I could not imagine listening to
really
a 7 minute long Mac DeMarco song.
Yeah, it's got like
the one solace
that's the one that's the eulogy to his dad.
The one solace I had in listening to this album is that all the songs are 3 minutes or less. The album is like 30 minutes, and I'm like, it's a breezy listen. Like it's not a slog really.
Right, it's not.
So I'm like, but like the image of a 7 minute long Mac DeMarco song, I'm like, that's like a deathbed.
I think it's really great. It's
is
like one of his.
Is it just a Mac? Is it more interesting though? Is it like?
Yeah, I mean, it's got like It's got an instrumental break in the middle of the song or the beginning of the song. I don't know. And it's slightly more abrasive than like his regular sound. Yeah.
But yeah, look, my opinion about Mac DeMarco hasn't really changed. I still think he's relatively boring. I don't like that whole sound from like the middle 2010s, early mid 2010s. That to me, he was the figurehead of that sound. You know, probably not on purpose. I don't think he wanted that, but you know, it's just to me what he represents. You know, it's a pretty uneventful episode, I think. I haven't changed my opinion or anything.
And I mean, I haven't changed mine. I mean, my opinion has.
I mean, my intention wasn't to change your opinion. I just
right. I think it's just a very different like perspective on it. I really enjoy him. I'm not here trying to argue that he's one of the best of the past decade. To me, he is personally.
He's the best of 2014, at least.
But yeah, but I can see how his appeal could be limited to certain groups of people. It's not like I'm here arguing like the way that I argue that Beach House is the best band of 2000s.
I would give Beach House a try because I've liked Beach House more than Mac DeMarco.
Yeah, and you probably would like their last record a little bit more, I would say, because
I think their music is more interesting. They're working with like more interesting sounds and shit to me.
Yeah, their guitar sounds are also a little bit more interesting. It's not as I don't know. Mac DeMarco has some interesting moments, I think. His last album was slightly a bit of a letdown because you know he had been getting better, but I appreciated that is a different. I think he does try to come up with like different things.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall each album has a lot of like. This album has a lot of like especially the first album has a lot of the same things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that was our episode on Mac DeMarco.
Mac DeMarco.
Don't like him. So.
Jizzy Jazz.
Jazz, yeah. Jazz is his brand genre of music.
Yeah, that's what he does, and he doesn't really keep up with new music that much. He just does his thing.
Okay, well, thanks for listening. You can follow us at Blood on the Mic on Instagram, Blood on the Mic 1 on Twitter. Follow me at Torno Lewis. Follow us on Facebook at Blood on the Mic.
Blood on the Mic on Instagram.
Cool. Leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that shit.
Yeah. Text me if you're single.
Please do. He needs somebody.
All right, and we'll see you next week. Or actually,
Probably
we won't see you next
no.
week. No. We'll take a break.
We're
but then
taking
we'll see
another
you
long
soon.
hiatus. So.
Well, short hiatus. We'll see you soon.
Goodbye.